Well, how is Canada feeling after that? My goodness. It's late. I'm tired, dry eyes, put my glasses on, and I was given quite a treat by the Canadian men who move on to the semifinal here of Copa America. Andy, Alex, Ollie, Dima with you here. Let's break this down. Ollie, you're there. I don't know. What does this mean? What are you feeling right now as the Canadian men do the job in dramatic fashion?
Yeah, can you hear me okay, guys? First of all, it's a little hectic up here. Okay. Difficult to put that one into words, to be honest with you. I think you'd need to be a lot smarter than me to summarize it. An incredible game, firstly, and I thought Canada was the better team on the night and looks like they were going to give it away in the most painful fashion. But then these guys just did something, I think, so it's going to be that they're going to remember for a long time, and is a really massive moment in the story and the history of this program. It's one of the biggest wins they've ever had, to hold their nerve, to get what they got from Maxime Crepeau in that penalty shootout. This is a really significant night for Canadian soccer.
All right, Dima, I got to ask you. I mean, this is what seems to be a theme here, and Ollie just said it, biggest win. I mean, I know a lot of people are going to look back to when they actually won the Gold Cup. That's their trophy that they have. But I guess when you're looking at bigger stage, what does this win, moving on to the semifinal, mean for this team and the program?
I am mentally exhausted. I'm mentally exhausted after that. That was by far, first of all, that was by far the best match at the Copa America, hands down so far, I would say. And the second thing for me is I think it is the biggest win for Canada, just because the way, in the fashion that we did it. If you look at every single match, it was an away match, every single match. The crowd is against us in every single match, and we somehow still pull it off. Yes, we lost against Argentina. It was more of a free-flowing match. Against Peru, against Chile, they were just head-to-head. I mean, just knuckle busters, just a tough game. And this one here, the same thing. The crowd is against us, and we somehow managed to pull it off. It's to me, this is the biggest win for Canadian soccer. It just hands down. There's just so many emotions going through everybody right now. I'm just over the moon. I'm over the moon.
Alex, your turn.
Yeah, I mean it's special, right? This is a special win, and a win that I think right now it's not something where I don't think it'll quite sit in, just because that game itself certainly. There's just so many emotions in the game. I think the big thing stands out too is that this was one of the biggest games in the program. I mean, many times today I was asked, like, where does this rank among games Canada's played? I'm like, I'm not quite ready to say this is the biggest game they've played, but it's probably just, at least for this generation of players alone, this is a top 3 game in terms of magnitude. For them to go out and put out probably their best performance under Jesse Marsh. Like, really, had they not been, I don't know if there's an adjective to describe how they were in front of goal today. It was just, for whatever reason, they could not fit that ball in that the 6x10 frame for the life of them. It was a very, very good performance, and it's good they were able to get it over the line in the end with some great mentality, which sometimes you have to do in knockout football. As they've learned, you can play bad and win. You can also play good and not win. And I think it was great to see them step up, because, yeah, now with this being one of the biggest games, a lot of the biggest games they've played, they've come up short. Nations League final, all the games at the World Cup. For them to go in and now get a signature win, absolutely massive for this Canadian men's national team.
And I think we can all agree, and you just alluded to it, Dima, that they're always the underdogs going in, and they're always the ones that don't have the most fans in the stands. Canadian fans travel, but typically, especially when these tournaments are being held in the United States, you're going to get either a pro-US crowd, or oftentimes, obviously a lot of the people in America cheering for the teams that typically compete in Copa America. But Ollie, just like the World Cup, where, again, Canada, they were the underdogs. They were, obviously not the debutantes, but their second time since 1986. They caught the attention of a lot of people based on that first performance against Belgium. Do you think in this tournament as well, there are people in South America going, oh, Canada's actually good at soccer?
Yeah, 100%. And that's been the thing through the past 3 matches for me, certainly the past 2. Canada's a better team than these guys. Like, it's just flat out that simple. You can talk about the tournament experience. You can talk about, the players having been through things like this before, and some of the know-how that we've seen during these games that can affect the outcomes. And Venezuela nearly nicked this one tonight. So that's certainly part of it. But there are players on this Canadian team David and Laren up front, I thought gave them all kinds of problems today. The pace of Shaffelburg, the other teams are really having a difficult time dealing with. I think it is the overall athleticism more than anything of this Canadian team. They are just a lot quicker than the teams they're going up against, and a lot of these opponents are really struggling to find answers. So, like at times, I think this team can stray dangerously towards beating themselves, whether it's missed chances, whether it's the kind of goal they conceded tonight that puts them in trouble. But in terms of the things that they can really control, like they do better than the opponents they're coming up against. I'm not surprised they're getting these results, as delighted as I am. And obviously there is surprise that they're going to be playing in a Copa America semifinal.
Yeah, we're going to get to the tying goal by Venezuela in a second, because I still want to keep the positive vibes going here. And I don't want to lead you in a certain direction, Dima, but if we're talking about a player who stood up, Shaffelburg, if we're talking about a player who came off the bench and started in the 11, Shaffelburg, and looked really good, Shaffelburg gets the goal here for Canada tonight, Shaffelburg. What do you make of Shaffelburg's stock?
Outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. If you weren't going to mention him, I was going to mention him. What I like about Shaffelburg the most is he's not the fanciest player out there, but he uses his skills to his advantage. He's very, very direct. And that's what I love about him. He's extremely direct. He's that no pushover type of player. He gets the ball, he goes down his wing, he does his job, he crosses the ball in, he finds open spaces. He just absolutely bothers the heck out of every single defender out there. His work rate is very, very impressive, and he's very, very hard to catch. He's the second fastest player in the MLS, player in the MLS. So these backs and these center backs have just an atrocious time against players like Shaffelburg. And you can see it in every single match that he's featured in. No one really has an answer for Jacob Shaffelburg. No one has it. Maritime Messi, baby.
That is the nickname. And Alex, we all had this conversation on a Vamos degree show about last week, whether or not Shaffelburg should be a starter or remain as a super sub. I think we all liked him as that super sub because that's what we saw him as, and that's where he had his most impact. But we also knew that we wouldn't be surprised if Jesse Marsch, the new coach, would see what he could get from him as a starter. Do you think now that he has cemented himself as a starter, or do you still feel like, depending on how the game goes, maybe he would still be used as a sub? Or just how are you feeling about his role on the team?
Yeah, well, I think it's obviously, big picture. I think it's hard to cement him as a starter, and that's more of a credit to Canada's depth, where, there is still Liam Miller, there is still a Tajon Buchanan when he's healthy, Richie Larea. Canada has a depth of wide players coming through. But certainly for Canada, you're focusing on Argentina next week. 100% he has to start. And I think what I've liked from him, he showed it against Chile, and he showed it to an even other level today. You know what you get from him. You know what you get from him when he comes off the bench. You know what you get from him when he starts games. It's energy. He continues to just, make things happen. It's this, again, for me, I just love his mentality. It's just like, get the ball, head down, run. You make a mistake, you know what? It's not like, all right, linger in your mistake. Oh, I'm frustrated, I messed up. No, it's all right. Give me the ball again. Let me go again. Let me go again. Let me go again. And that's like such a strong mentality for a winger, especially to have. It's a position where you get a lot of scrutiny. You take guys on, you don't get a lot of, even the best dribblers in the world only dribble at 40, 50%. You have to get used to making a lot of mistakes. And what we've seen in the modern game, where we prioritize efficiency, ball management. Wingers these days, they play a little more conservative. They take the ball, they don't like what they see, they go backwards. They make a mistake, they play cautious. Shaffelburg is just head down, same thing every time, and it's annoying for defenders. And you see where his goal today, of course, was great, but how many times did he just take the ball, run, get in behind, cross it to a dangerous area? How many times did he win fouls, or at least could have won more fouls? There's that early shout for a free kick that got ignored. Like, that energy you get from the start, he's been the winger who's brought the most in that regard. I think he deserves a start against Argentina and go from there.
All right, Ollie, let's finally get to that goal that made a lot of Canadians nervous. Take us through that, because, you look at that goal and right away your eyes tell you Max Crepeau was very high. I mean, he was practically at the halfway line of the pitch. Was that a bombito, being a little too casual defensively? Kind of break that all down and what you saw that allowed Venezuela to tie this up.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it on any one individual, because I just thought the whole setup was wrong. It wasn't even a corner. It was a long throw, and Moise Bombito was like the closest player to the Canada goal, and he was 35, 40 yards from the Venezuela goal. It just can't happen, right? And that's the kind of moment that obviously you have to avoid and can turn an otherwise great performance into a really difficult night. But look, Canada found a way to come through, and I think just a couple of huge moments when you look back on some of the things that have happened in the past and the recent and distant past. Alfonso Davies scoring his penalty, the fifth one, if I remember correctly, to get them to sudden death. Ismail Kone has gone out of the team the past couple of games after a tough period, scores his penalty. Moise Bombito as well, I want to give a shout out to. He had to wait a long time because of the lasers out of the stands and just kept his cool and slide it away. So some really, really gutsy moments from this Canadian team and didn't allow themselves to lose this quarterfinal.
I thought those lasers were done, man. I thought after, a couple years ago when we saw, Mo Salah with just stop with this nonsense with these lasers. That's just not legal. Let it go. I do want to also, Ollie, while you're in that stadium, just what was the reaction to certain calls by the ref? I think we all have our opinions here. Did he let too much go? Was he unfair to the Canadians? What was the vibe like in there?
Well, in here, it's all Venezuelans, crowd and press box. So and anything that went against them, obviously, drew a reaction. I thought there was a couple of decisions that were just unbelievable. There was one where Larin kind of broke away and the goalkeeper came out to meet him and kind of ushered him out for a throw-in, and the keeper completely prevented the throw-in from being taken, and there was nothing happened. So, they had to put up with a little bit of that, and obviously a heavily pro-Venezuelan crowd as well that really got up. I think after that Larin missed chance, they knew they were still in it at that point. But again, they came through it.
Yeah, they really did. And then also there was just a weird, I don't know if you were able to see it, if you're paying attention to it, but even when Shaffelburg went off, there seemed to be a clear indication by the fourth official to let him on. And the ref still insisted on giving him a yellow.
Yeah, he got booked for listening to the officials.
Yeah, he got booked for listening to the officials. All right, Tim, is there anyone else so far as the tournament clearly will continue for the Canadians? The semifinal will go against Argentina on Tuesday. Anyone else so far been standing out to you as someone? We always love to use stock up, stock down. Anyone's stock kind of gone up for you a little bit here?
Several players for me, actually. Absolutely. You look at me and Alex talked about it during the CPL broadcast earlier. Their tournament football always produces these kind of, I wouldn't say no-name players, but maybe players that were kind of in the shadows a little bit, and then they have that opportunity to come onto the pitch and prove who they are. And I mean, for me, it's Alistair Johnston. For me, it's Max Crepeau. Those two guys, especially tonight. I mean, Crepeau has been the best goalkeeper in the tournament for me in the Copa America. And I try to be very, very neutral. He's made the most saves in the Copa America. He saved 2 penalties today at the Copa America in a very, very pro-Venezuelan environment. Johnston today, just unbelievable on the right-hand side for me. Specifically, there's just that one play in the first half where it was a very, very dangerous cross into the box and he got his head to it. It was a sure goal. That was a sure goal, but he dove for that ball. He put his body on the line, cleared it out. I mean, he was just an absolute beast today, absolute beast. And you can see why Celtic signed him. You can see why he plays at a top club. He just showed it tonight for me.
Yeah. And you did see there that Ollie has left. He's there. He needs to head in and do some interviews and some press conferences for us. Alex, what about you and a player who, or maybe a couple who stood out so far in this tournament for Canada?
Yeah, I'll go for a few, and I'll pick up where Dima left off. I think it's so important to point out how good Alistair Johnston was. He was imperial back there. Like, he hardly set a foot wrong. He's been getting beat up all term. He's getting headbutted, fouled, clawed. I hope they have enough ice in back at the hotel to nurse everything that he's gone through this tournament. Yet he's just been super reliable defensively. He wins his duels. He's been winning his tackles. He's been pushing the ball up the field as well offensively. He's the one, you have to remember, who makes the quick, instinct throw-in to get the ball to Jonathan David for the goal. Right? He's helping at both ends of the pitch too. He's been absolutely fantastic. But really, that whole back four, for me today, I'm looking at this game. This back four was phenomenal for Canada. Johnston, Bombito, Cornelius, Davies. There's some nervy moments early on for a Bombito, for example. Davies grew into the game, but I thought by the end, all four were Canada's best players, and they really helped Canada lock it down. And I think they'll look back at this game. The only real big moment they gave up was just an error on their part. They should not have had that many guys up for a throw-in. It was just that whole goal could have been avoided before Bombito slipped, before Crepeau got caught out. That's not one on the back line. other than that, they were pretty much perfect on the day and made some huge interventions. I think they deserve a shout because, again, before the tournament, we weren't sitting here thinking, is Canada going to struggle to score? It was, is Canada going to be able to defend? And this new look back four has been fantastic across these few games. Otherwise, just some names off the top of my head. I thought Osorio's come in and done really well in these few games and has brought some much needed composure to the middle of the park. And it creates an interesting dilemma where Kone came in, was great. Again, is there a solution where you have Osorio and Kone out on the field at the same time to give Canada a bit more oomph? And then lastly, I love what Tani Oluwasi is bringing off the bench. He just gets himself into good areas. For him, he just needs a chance to fall, it feels like. And then he could really be a dangerous super sub the same way a Shaffelburg has been out wide. Oluwasi can bring that up front, I think.
Well, speaking of backline, as we know, Alphonso Davies being used in that left back role, that is where Jesse Marsh sees him fitting in the best. He's been looking really good. But Spearmint making a comment here saying, it's so great that Davies doesn't have to carry this team. And it's funny because even as I was watching the game, Dima, I'm like, I haven't really heard Davies' name. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. It didn't mean that he wasn't involved. It didn't mean that he wasn't doing things. It's just there seems to be so many players right now being put in a position to succeed here under Jesse Marsh that Davies doesn't feel that pressure, because I feel like he did feel it before, right? Sometimes maybe he held onto the ball longer than he should have. Maybe he was up the pitch when he should have been back, or back when he should have been up. Like he was trying to do too much because he knew that that was the expectation of him. Do you feel that this team has changed that with the way they've been playing?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like you're absolutely right. I feel like before it was, oh, you know, Davies needs to have a good match. Well, we have Alphonso Davies. Don't worry, guys. Where's Davies going to play? Is he going to play left wing? We need more offense. We need to play him here. We need to play him there. Now we have solidified where Alphonso Davies is playing. Jesse Marsh has come in, said, no, you know what? Alphonso Davies, he can play as a left back. We can do some overlapping runs. But then other players have stepped up. And that's actually very, very good. We don't need to rely on a single player. We don't need to rely on Davies taking every single penalty, because we have other players that can do that. We saw that tonight. We have other players that can create chances. We have other players that can play in the midfield and find the wingers, find our number 10, find our number 9, find all the quality that we have on the pitch. The defense has been absolutely fantastic. Everyone is stepping up and everyone is doing their job. And Davies kind of can just lead by example, but doesn't have to be a superstar like every single match. Like we've had it for years where it's, like I said, we have Alphonso Davies. Okay, now we have Jacob Shaffelburg. Now we have Jonathan David. Now we have Ishmael Kone and the experience of Osorio still coming in. We have Moise Bambito and Derek Cornelius as in just an incredible partnership. I mean, I want to point that out again. Like these two guys, just absolutely incredible. Alistair Johnston, Max, everyone is doing what they're supposed to be doing. And Alphonso Davies, he can just hang out, chill, relax, do what his job is. And he doesn't have to be a superstar every single day to be a superstar on this team.
Very true. But I am going to contradict myself just a little bit here. And that's only because, once again, Alex, we find ourselves talking about the lack of goal scoring. And I know that right now, obviously, David and Laren are those figures up front. But, you know, Davies, when he gets those runs in along the left, has usually provided that offense as well. Are we still kind of scratching our heads? I know Jesse Marsh has come out and said, I'm like, this is still new. I'm still trying to feel out this team. So I'm trying to work on the defense. Like this is very purposeful, what we're doing right now defensively. But are you at some point going, okay, but you know, you've been creating some chances here and I'd like to see more of those go behind, you know, the goalkeeper and into the back of the net. Is that still something you're kind of keeping your eye on?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's the big thing that, you know, really, again, like I mentioned off the top, if Canada was better in front of goal, this game is over at halftime. This game is over minute 60. There was no reason for Venezuela to be able to get into the game with the goal they had, because Canada should have put this away long ago. Jonathan David had a breakaway. How good is he on those? Typically goes amiss. There's a chance where Laren gets a cutback. He had time to take a touch. He had time to take 3 touches. He goes first time, skies it over the bar. That's it. It is a big issue. And it's something where I get where Marsh is coming from, because he said it heading into this game. And I think after this, he can feel vindicated. At some point, you have to feel the chances are going to fall. They missed 4 big chances today. They now have missed 12 of their 13 big chances this tournament. Any statistician, any person who believes in luck, doesn't believe in luck, will say, okay, at a certain point, they're bound to get their luck. But at the same time, are Canada doing enough to create their luck? Is it something where genuinely Jesse Marsh has big questions to ask of the two up front. I think it's something where Jonathan David and Kyle Larin in particular, they'll sit back and look at this game and know that if they were at their best, Canada doesn't have to go to penalties. Canada isn't put onto the brink the way they were. They could have easily put this game away. And again, it's something I've continued to say since match one. It faces a tough conundrum because, again, Kyle Larin worked his absolute bag off again today. Very good defensive performance, super good on set pieces. Jonathan David was phenomenal dropping into the pocket, playing. But at the end of the day, they're both strikers. They're both your top two scorers in the program. They're both on the pitch to score goals. It's something where how often do you continue to go back to that well of strikers when it's not working? Of course, you can look and go luck. At a certain point, as they say, when it happens over and over and over again, I don't need to use the Einstein quote. Something's got to give there. And I think especially you see an Oluwaseyi come off the bench and make something happen. Kone come off the bench, make something happen. I think you have to try something different offensively. I still think you can have it. There's a scenario where you tweak things up offensively. Those chances don't dry up and maybe you get something different. And heck, as we've seen with some of these guys who've been benched and picked up for it, maybe that's what's just needed for one of these two strikers, likely Kyle Larin, because I just don't think you can drop a Jonathan David based on what he can bring. Maybe just you need 60 minutes off the bench, come into a game fresh, fired up to get it. Because, I think it's something where at a certain point, the sample size is there. Canada's struggling to score goals.
And we've seen also, Dima, that Jesse Marsh isn't afraid to make changes, right? We've already seen him take Tajon Buchanan out. Obviously now he's been injured, but before that he took Tajon Buchanan out. He wasn't scared to try Richie Larea along that right wing back. He's obviously taken Ishmael Kone out as a veteran and Jonathan Osorio, keeping Alphonso Davies even as that left back, starting Jacob Shaffelburg in lieu of Liam Miller. We've seen him make these changes. Do you think he would do it at that front forward position? Do you, and are you in agreement that if there is going to be a change, that it would be Kyle Larin coming out and Jonathan David staying in?
Yeah, I think we've seen from Jesse Marsh that he's not a man that doesn't want to take risks. We've seen him change lineups like we just talked about. All of a sudden Kone was out, all of a sudden Osorio was in, and Osorio has been in since for the last 2 matches now.
Yeah.
We've seen that happen. So, but that also shows me, and I think you guys will agree with me, that there's confidence in every single player. Jesse Marsh has confidence in his group. That means he's not worried. He's not worried about who he's putting out there. If someone is out there, that means they're deserving to be out there. I'm going to have to agree with Alex on this one. I really, really like what Tanny has brought so far off the bench. He's been very, very effective. We also have Theo Bair on the bench, who hasn't seen a single minute. Ali Ahmed came on today for the first time, and I thought he was very, very good in the time that he was given off the bench. So I don't see that being out of the question, to be honest with you. I can see, if Jesse Marsh has the confidence in every single player, and that obviously shows through the several changes that we've made through this Copa America in every single match, I don't see why we wouldn't be able to make a change even in the next match against Argentina, just because, like Alex said, we're really not capitalizing on the chances that we have. At halftime, it should have been 3-0.
Mm-hmm. You think so, eh? Yeah, with the chances that they had?
Absolutely. I think it should have been minimum 2, probably 3. Yeah, definitely.
I wonder what the attitude is now, Alex. Like, how are you feeling? I don't know if anyone wants to comment as well. Let me know how you're feeling, because heading into the tournament, knowing that Argentina was the first game, there was this general consensus of like, we're going to lose to Argentina, get the loss out of the way, and get the job done against Peru and Chile to advance out of the group. Now that you're getting this rematch in the semi, are you kind of going, job well done, playing with house money, we've gone further than we thought, so if we lose, meh? Or is it a different attitude now than that first group stage game? We are still talking Argentina, although a lot of people want to make mention that they didn't look too good, against Ecuador. But I don't know how you're feeling now about this matchup against Argentina.
Yeah, I think there is going to be a confidence and expectation. And I think what stood out for me was what they were saying after they lost to Argentina. Because I think there was no shame in their performance against Argentina. Yeah, you made some mistakes, but if you make mistakes against the world #1 team, no one's going to fault you for that. Yet they were sitting there in the press conference frustrated. Like, yeah, we should have been better. We were naive. We shouldn't have made mistakes. And that okay, that's interesting, because no one would have faulted Marsh if he said, you know what, the guys fought hard. They played well. Argentina is just a better team. In their head, it was the game is there. And I think why not? They were there for 48 minutes against Argentina. They watched Ecuador bring Argentina right to the brink yesterday, if not for some incredible penalty heroics. I think this Canadian team will see that Argentina game and think, why not? And for what it's worth in tournaments, whenever a team meets early on and they meet later on, it tends to favor the team that lost the first time around, right? Just the fact you're kind of familiar. Maybe you come in, especially in Canada's perspective, like they're going to be severe underdogs. I think it's something where they can have a chip on the shoulder. Like, yeah, no one's thinking they're going to go out and win. Yeah, no one's betting on them. Yeah, Argentina's probably looking at them like, okay, this is a match. Like, you'd much be rather facing Canada in this semifinal than a Uruguay, then a Colombia, then a Brazil. For Canada, channel that. And I think based on the mentality they've shown, they've never been satisfied. And throughout this tournament, they've had so many good moments, like the Argentina game, like getting out of their group, now getting to the semifinal. Yet it just feels like the vibe the whole time is just each time, all right, either we didn't meet our expectations or we did. Job done. On to the next. And I think they're going to bring that mentality. And I think that's really if there's one thing now, like now that they've made the semifinals and now that they're, again, so surreal to say that out loud, I think we can safely say it. This team has taken a graduation in mentality. It's something where it's genuinely they've taken that next step. And I think the reason for that is mentality. So it was never a talent issue. Talent wasn't the thing stopping them from going toe-to-toe with these teams. It was really mentality of finding a way to beat them. And now that they've started to string some wins together, have gotten as far as they have, that mentality really stands out. And I'm expecting them to come out guns a-blazing against Argentina, because while they will expect to win, it is still a bonus match for them. And hopefully they can take advantage of that.
Well, and I don't know, is Messi fully fit? I'm just saying, if now's the time to do it, Dima, how are you feeling right now?
I mean, yeah, I watched the Argentina-Ecuador match, and Messi, I mean, I would say he was invisible in that game. It doesn't look like he's 100% fit. That doesn't obviously kind of question the fact is Argentina better than Canada with or without Messi. Of course, they still have many other quality players, even if Messi is not in the lineup. But I think we're going to face, Argentina is going to face a completely different Canada side going into the semifinal, because there's been a lot of things that has happened since that 2-0 loss to Argentina. We beat Peru. We drew Chile. An emotional win against Venezuela, where we were probably the better team in this game. We've grown as a team. I think we're going to approach this game with just a better upset or a better mindset and really with less nerves. I think like the first game against Argentina, it was very, very nervy for us. First match of the Copa America, we're facing the world number one, still very early in the lineup. We only played 2 friendlies with the new coach before the Argentina match. I mean, there wasn't a lot to talk about. Now we've kind of grew as a team, grew as a football nation, somehow reached the semifinals of the Copa America. That itself will give the guys confidence. So I expect something a little bit different, honestly. I expect less sloppiness. They're going to obviously study what Argentina and what the mistakes that they made in the game in the first time they played us and kind of carry it over. And you never know, right? In football, weird things happen all the time. And like Alex said, it's not a talent issue for us. You know, it was a mentality issue. Now, like we have the talent on the squad. I don't care what people say. We have good players. Like we have players that play at top clubs, you know, like this isn't like a David versus Goliath in a sense where, you know, like Argentina is obviously the number one, but I still think we're going to enter this game with a top mentality and still feel that we can possibly get something out of it.
Yeah. I think I'm going to give probably the ultimate Canadian answer as well, where it's like, well, these are the reigning Copa America champions and world champions. So if Canada loses, they gave it their all. But at the same time, Argentina appears vulnerable. They didn't look their best against Ecuador. The Canadians have already faced them, and they've been gaining momentum as this tournament has gone on. So this should be a game. This should be a game where Canada gives Argentina a challenge. Don't ask me for my prediction. I cannot give it right now. I am still too emotionally spent from what we just witnessed here, gentlemen, in the quarterfinals. Thank you to everyone who's been joining us here on our live reaction show. Some great comments, a lot of positivity. Everyone's feeling great about Canada, but of course, talking about certain tweaks here and there. We'll see. We'll see what Jesse Marsh does. That semifinal game will go on Tuesday against Argentina. That's Alex. That's Dima. I'm Andy. We had Ollie on. He's on location. He's getting interviews for us. You've been watching Vamos, brought to you by Degree, right here on our One Soccer YouTube channel. Night.
Peace.